Hello, I'm Richard Nongard with SubliminalScience.com, and I want to share with you right now some techniques for doing suggestive therapy, for actually doing the part after the induction, after the deepener, where a person makes changes in the subconscious mind. Now let's talk about two approaches to helping people make deep and lasting change. The first is indirective hypnosis. And in indirective hypnosis, we use stories, parables, metaphors, things that actually teach a lesson to a person. And Milton Erickson's idea was that the subconscious mind is intuitive. It knows exactly what it needs to know in order to make any change. So if I'm working with an individual, trying to help them make some change, and I tell them a story, their subconscious mind in trance is going to recognize the importance of that story and extract from it what it needs to extract in order to make change. It's essentially going to have an aha experience, and that, when done in a state of trance, rewrites the lifelong learnings and can help a person to actually make change. One of the experts in the therapeutic world of using stories and metaphors in traditional therapy and in hypnotherapy was Jay Haley. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you get these stories. How do you find stories to tell your clients? Perhaps you're like me and you're not an expert at either writing your own stories or even remembering your own stories. Well, there are some great tools for us, fortunately. One of those tools is a book titled Clinical Applications of Hypnosis by George Gaffner. And the other one is in the world of hypnosis, known as the Big Red Book, and it's edited by Corey Hammond, and it's called The Handbook of Hypnotic Suggestions and Metaphors. Both of these books can be found on Amazon or even a used bookstore. Both of them are tremendous resources. Let's say you have a client who's coming in with stage fright. Well, you can open up to the stage fright section and you can usually find a story, a parable, a metaphor, something like that. Let's say you have a client coming in with irritable bowel syndrome. Well, you can go to George Gaffner's book and find some great stories that teach truths through indirect suggestion. I also suggest to new hypnotists that they start keeping essentially a recipe book of stories that they like to tell. Just recently, within the past week, I told a story to a client about one of my own experiences in life. And when I do hypnosis with individuals, I often start with a story, a parable, or metaphor. It doesn't have to be a long story. It can be a short story. It can be a poem. It can be anything that the subconscious mind is going to attach meaning to and take its learnings from. Now, whenever I do hypnosis with an individual, I usually start out by letting them know, during the course of the next few minutes as we spend time together, you may hear me read from my notes or even read from a book. The reason why is I want to make sure that I cover everything that's important to you. This way, you can feel comfortable actually using a written script in hypnosis. There are a lot of people who tell you, don't use scripts, that's scriptnosis and that's no good. The reality is you want to make sure if you're seeing 8 to 9 to 10 clients a day, that you cover everything that is important to them. And so having notes and referring to them, even reading a story or a parable or something like that, a poem, is certainly appropriate. And the way to prepare a client for that really is pretty simple, to let them know that if they hear papers rustling, if they hear you reading, it's because you're going to make sure that you cover everything that's important to them. And so one great way to start out hypnosis sessions is with this indirect suggestion. Now, I'm a believer. There's a bunch of people out there who want to argue, should we do indirect or should we do direct suggestion? My theory is, use both. And so after I read a story, share a parable, a poem, something that's going to teach that lesson that's valuable to my client, I then do what's called a transitional deepener. I simply deepen trance a bit, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And as you continue to relax, I'm going to give you some direct suggestions. And I say to my client the following line. This is real important because this keeps the conscious mind from saying, oh, he's telling me what to do. And this actually gives the client ownership of those direct suggestions. And so I say to my client, the suggestions I'm making are not suggestions that come from me, but actually suggestions that you've asked me to make by coming here today. This is a great way of giving clients ownership of these suggestions. And then I go into direct suggestions, essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 direct suggestions that can help my clients make significant change. This is an easy formula for those who are new to hypnosis, or those who have a new type of client that you haven't worked with before, or those who are new to writing your own hypnosis scripts. Start out with indirect, that story, that parable, that metaphor. There are lots of guides out there to help you. You can even Google metaphors for change, or stories for recovery from addiction. I mean, whatever the issue is. Fables that help me stop chasing cars. You can just type that into Google and find all kinds of cool stories and things like that. Bring them to your hypnosis sessions. And then follow that indirect suggestion with direct suggestion. Now let me give you some examples of direct suggestion. If you're a therapist, you've probably been doing cognitive behavioral therapy and actually helping clients to counter their cognitive errors. Those are actually direct suggestions. But direct suggestions are the specific things that my client is going to do when they leave my office. Now, for simplicity's sake and because of time, I'm not going to pick a complex subject here or even any complex direct suggestions. But let's come up with 5 direct suggestions for weight loss. Well, for example, people can lose weight by actually adding to their diet, by adding nutritionally dense foods. And so my first suggestion to a client might be that you'll find yourself actually losing weight by adding to your diet a ½ pound of cut up vegetables and a ½ pound of cut up fruit to your diet each and every day between now and your next session. That's an example of a direct suggestion. Another direct suggestion, especially if our client lives in Las Vegas. And anytime you're at a buffet, you'll see it as it truly is, an opportunity to make one of many healthy food choices in the correct portion. What this does is reframe the misbelief that a buffet is an opportunity to get your $9.95's worth, to prove you can out-eat the buffet owners. And in reality, a healthy way of looking at a buffet is a great way to solve where we're going to go to dinner tonight, because each person can choose their own healthy meal in the correct portion tonight. Another great direct suggestion for weight loss. I've given you a pedometer, and I give all my weight loss clients a pedometer, and I give them this suggestion that they'll take more steps today than tomorrow, more steps tomorrow than today, increasing their steps each and every day for 10 to 10,000 steps per day. That's a suggestion for increasing activity I give to almost all of my weight loss clients. Are there any other direct suggestions we could make for weight loss? Well, another great one is that you'll pay attention to your water intake, increasing your water consumption to 8 to 12 glasses a day of healthy, refreshing, and cleansing water. And of course, another awesome direct suggestion is that when we have future sessions, you'll find it even easier to experience trance, that you listen to the CD I gave you each and every day for the next 21 days, finding yourself practicing the principles that are contained therein. Now, by following this simple formula, indirect suggestion, followed by a transitional deepener, and followed by direct suggestion, I can begin actually writing my own hypnosis scripts and helping my clients with the ideas that are going to be life-changing for them. My hope here is that in this short YouTube clip you've gotten some ideas on how to structure hypnotic suggestions, especially if you're a newcomer. I enjoy teaching folks here on YouTube and at my live seminars. You can always find information about our certification training programs at subliminalscience.com.